That's my baby. I'm dying. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored. They did it.
Left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Hounds. I'm Rob Brinkman. He's Brad Ryer, Frank Vesby, backstage on the ones and twos. This is the Sports Hounds, exclusively on a2dradio.com, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, also Instagram. You miss anything here on A2D Radio, download us in podcast form, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Takeover Talk. A2D Radio is everywhere. We're in the 50,000 follower range. We're trying to grow YouTube. Pound that like, subscribe. Obviously, this is not Monday night. This is Sunday afternoon. We have some obligations tomorrow, so you get a special early MLB preview edition of the Sports Hounds. Brad, it's an exciting time of year for us baseball fans. The mitts are popping. You get the smells of baseball. The mitts are popping down in Florida. April 1st, month and a half away. Got a lot to talk about, the moving and shaking of the hot stove. This is more of a gambling perspective on the MLB season. Vegas with their releasing of the win totals. We got the MVP odds are somewhat up to date and accurate right now. We'll do official predictions later down the line. These are kind of like our early leans, some bets we might be liking that you can hop on early. Obviously, we have the Carson Wentz. He's now a Colt, much to the chagrin of some Eagles fans. We're going to crush Deadspin a little bit. Tommy Arnone, our fearless leader, they suck. They said that.
I saw what they said. They're
with the Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts in terms of the racism talk.
That's just ridiculous.
Tommy crushed him. I'm gonna crush him. There was one paragraph on the article that just totally blew my mind and inaccurate. And for anyone to sit here and say that, obviously Philadelphia doesn't have the greatest history when it comes to race relations, but they've come a long way. And
fans don't give a crap about that. They don't. The fans in Philly. Okay, I've always had some nasty things to say about them, but that's not one of them at all. They don't care. If you win for them, that's all they care about. They just want to win.
Michael Vick.
Exactly. Michael Vick especially. Come on. They supported Michael Vick, and Michael Vick was a dog killer, for God's sakes. So
killed dogs, and he was African American, and he was still revered in this city for close to 2 years.
And so was McNabb. Come on, everybody loved McNabb too.
And McNabb's problems relating to this fan base were all Donovan McNabb's fault. And guess what? It had nothing to do with his skin color.
And yeah, it was all game related. It was all field related. So
we got that. We got Carson Wentz is on the Colts. The Colts are a pretty good team. We'll talk about that later in the show. I thought going at 5 o'clock on Sunday, we're going to be able to do a nice little post-game show on Flyers Bruins. That game pushed back to 7:30. Got some problems with the ice. So later on the show, we'll do a little preview, a little pre-game show for the Flyers Bruins. I think they're the two best teams in the East. Flyers are missing some guys, but they played well against the Rangers the other night, and they're actually favored in the hockey game. So
they must have all the guys back then.
No, they don't. Giroux did not travel. Konechny did not travel. And I don't think Voracek is going to play either.
Flyers are favored without those guys against the Bruins?
Unless I'm going nuts here. Let me double check it, make sure I didn't read it wrong.
That can't be right. I know Pasternak is playing for the Bruins. That can't be right.
I'm going to double check it.
Okay.
But anyway, let's get to our poll question. First off, the Sports Hounds each and every week are sponsored by He's Our Doc, Make Him Yours Too, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, 2 convenient locations, Burlington and Cherry Hill. He's Our Doc, Make Him Yours Too. Body Check Wellness, new partnership here with A2D Radio, is a line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potential of hemp. They come in extract blends, gummies, and tropicals. Use the promo code A2D for 20% off your order at bodycheckwellness.com. Former Flyer will be joining the Hockey Happy Hour. He's the founder. That's his baby, the Body Check Wellness. He'll be joining the Hockey Happy Hour once a month throughout the hockey season to help talk some hockey with the boys, promote Body Check Wellness. Also, many of us in our families deal with mental health and addiction issues. We are happy to support the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox. If you need mental health therapy or addiction detox, call 856-651-8117 and tell them Tom Arnone sent you. Also, to help with the costs associated with the fire that devastated Ocean City Boardwalk recently, a GoFundMe was set up for our friends at All Campus. All Campus is located between 10th and 11th Street on the Boardwalk and was one of the businesses affected by the fire on the Ocean City Boardwalk. Prayers and or donations are greatly appreciated. Check out any of the talent here at A2D Radio. Check out their social media field. You'll be able to find a link to that GoFundMe page pretty easily. And then Philly Drinkers LLC. That's our poll question sponsor. Get one of these cool hats, Philly Drinkers LLC. Click on the A2D Radio collection. Get all your A2D merch right there. Our poll question today, baseball related. Win totals released. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the leader in the clubhouse. They are the favorites in the National League and all of baseball to repeat as World Series champions. Did they win last? They won last year.
Yeah. They won in
Dodgers,
6.
yeah, total brain fart there for a second. But over under 101.5 wins for the Los Angeles Dodgers. An astronomical posted win total. And Brad, I got to disagree with this poll question. And it's not because I think the Dodgers are going to underachieve and be a bad team or anything like that. 101.5 wins as the benchmark. So they have to win 102 games for you to win this bet. I don't see it happening. You have to bet the under, don't you, Brad?
I think so. Listen, the National League now is really good. There's a lot of really good teams in the National League. I mean, to win that many games, you've got to dominate. And as good as the Dodgers are, I could see between 96 and 98. I don't know if they're going to be a 100-win team. And really, it's basically because they have to play a lot of good teams. The National League West has San Diego in it, and they are an outstanding team. They might be the second best team in the league behind the Dodgers. And the Giants played better last year. I trust them to give the Dodgers the Giants always give the Dodgers fits anyway, but I trust them to show up and give them a hard time. Now the Rockies and who's the other team in that conference?
You got the Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks are okay. So I mean, I just think it's going to be awfully tough. And then you've got the other two divisions are very good, and I don't see it. There's not a lot of really bad teams in the National League that they're going to sit and they're going to win 18 out of 19 games, because that's kind of what it's going to take. You to win that many games, you've got to have some teams where you're like 16-3, 15-4. I don't know that they're going to do that to anybody in that league. I just don't think so.
Yeah, the National League, the far superior league in terms of baseball, as I looked at it this morning. There's a lot of god-awful teams in the American League.
Absolutely.
Ranger, like we'll get to them when we touch on the American League, but if you have a bad stretch, if you're like 3-10 over 13 games, that severely hinders your chances to win 102 ball games.
That's a lot of wins.
Another thing, starting pitching the Dodgers got. Obviously, they have a terrific lineup. They're going to score a lot of runs. But when it comes to crunch time and they got to rely on that bullpen, there's going to be a lot of nervous Dodgers fans all summer there in Los Angeles because their bullpen, Brad, it's not very good. Kenley Jansen is not what he once was, and
he's significantly past his prime. And the rest of their bullpen is pretty shaky. But they do have great starting pitching. And, if their starting pitching gives them innings, then that's just less innings that the bullpen is going to be out there. So it's really important that they do. What do they have? 7 starters now? The Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, they have Buehler at the top, who's a Cy Young candidate. Kershaw, whose resume speaks for itself. They signed Bauer.
Kershaw hasn't pitched very many games the last few years, though. I mean, when was the last time he actually had 30 starts? Like 5 years ago?
That's the point. He doesn't have to. Like, they have Buehler, they have Bauer to shoulder the load.
Yeah.
David Price is going to be back. He's not going to opt out. I mean, that's your 4th guy is David Price. I mean, that's pretty
good. As long as David Price doesn't have to face the Yankees, he's fine.
And then Julio Urias, he's okay.
I don't like him.
And Dustin May, Carrot Top, who I personally like. I think he's got great stuff. I think he's going to be a really good pitcher in this league.
I think
so. You have 6 legitimate starting pitchers.
He's more of a reliever than a starter, but that's okay.
Who? May?
Yeah.
Really?
I think he's cut out more as a reliever than a starter. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, from what I've seen of him, I like him better coming out of the bullpen. Maybe it's because I saw him last year in the postseason and he pitched very well in the bullpen. So,
and then you go to their bullpen. I mean, Kenley Jansen. I mean, he's not what he once was. Brudisar, Gratterall. Obviously, he comes over in the Mookie Betts trade from the Twins, who was a decently regarded prospect with the Twins. Corey Knebel, I mean, that doesn't do anything for me. Gonsolin, Trenian, he's decent.
Trenian's okay, but ever since he got hurt a couple of years ago in Oakland, he hasn't been the same. I mean, Oakland wouldn't have gotten rid of him if they wouldn't have gotten rid of him if he was worth keeping.
Oh, I can't put my money on an over win total that high, 101 and a half.
Their bullpen is questionable. To win that many games, you have to have all 3. I mean, you really do.
I mean, even RotoChamps, who is a trusted analytic projection site, at least in my opinion. I love rotochamp.com.
Yeah, I do.
They only have the Dodgers winning 100 games, going 162. And to be honest with you, they have the highest posted win total, I think, since the 2007 Yankees. And I'm not even sure, Brad, that they're going to win the NL West because the San Diego Padres are absolutely loaded.
Yeah, that infield, boy.
I mean, Tatis, who I think is... I mean, you have Tatis, Machado, Hosmer, Tommy Pham in the middle of the lineup. And then you add Blake Snell, who's going to have a tremendous year coming from the AL East to the NL West. It's just going to be an easier time for him to...
Well, they haven't really seen a lot of him. He's going to be brutal for those teams to handle. I mean, look what he did against the Dodgers last year in the World Series until he was foolishly removed from Game 6 by
brutal
by their manager.
I had a feeling he was going to get traded after they did that.
Well, he
must have been livid.
You and I both said we thought the way he acted when he came off the mound that he wasn't going to be playing there next year, and we were right. I mean, that's just the way Tampa Bay played. You live by the sword, and sometimes you die by the sword. But you know what? When your starting pitcher is mowing him down the way Blake Snell was last year in Game 6, to take him out of that game that early is just dumb baseball. I don't care about analytics. That's dumb baseball. You have to see how your pitcher's pitching. Okay, if he's been a little up and down, he's getting rocked a little bit, and he's had some stressful innings. That's one thing. But when you just mow right through the lineup the way he was going, you don't take your ace out. That's just silly.
With 76 pitches, I think the total was.
If it was that much.
Like, that's brutal. I mean, at what point do you look at the game and be like, okay, we use analytics to get here, which is fine and dandy, even though I'm not a subscriber to it. Sports are not played on a computer. They're great managers use their gut and their instincts to make moves, not a computer. And boy, Kevin Cash, he lost my respect that night. He absolutely 100% lost my respect that night.
There was no reason for it. I mean, how do you take a guy like that out of a game when he's dominating the game, especially with 76 pitches? I mean, come on. Are you going to tell your bullpen pitchers are better pitchers than Blake Snell?
No.
I mean,
not the way he was pitching. Not the way he was pitching at that moment in time.
Right. I can understand if it was Glasnow, because Glasnow was a little shaky in that series. He got roughed up a little bit. So if he's pitching, I could understand them taking that. But Snell mowed him down the first time he pitched against him, and he was mowing him down again. And Kevin Cash decided to take him out and go with the bullpen, and the rest was history.
I became an anti-Rays fan for life.
Yeah, well, you know what?
After that.
This and Mike Parker, I see your little comment there, and you know what? That's the biggest joke I've ever seen about going through the lineup 3 times. Come on. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not buying that crap. That's a load of crap.
Not Blake Snell. You have shitty pitchers like Vince Velasquez in Philadelphia who can't get through a lineup 3 times. Then you take him out after 4 or 5. Blake Snell is a Cy Young candidate.
Exactly.
A Cy Young winner.
Yeah, it's just silly. When it depends. It does depend on who the pitcher is, and again, we're talking about Blake Snell here. We're not talking about Vince Velasquez, and we're not talking about pitchers who are number 4 or number 5 pitchers. Okay, we're talking about Game 6 in the World Series, an elimination game. You have to let him go out there and at least throw 100 pitches. I know, and Mike Parker, I know you're joking with me because I saw the smiles, but I mean, come on, how do you do that? Could you imagine taking Bob Gibson out of a game after 76 pitches? He
wouldn't come out.
Right, he would deck the manager. Could you imagine Aaron Boone going out and telling Garrett Cole after 76 pitches that he's coming out because he wants to use the bullpen?
No, he's a fire plug, Garrett Cole. He's a definite fire plug. He wouldn't like it.
He was mad when he took him out when he was throwing a gem and he had thrown 109 pitches and he got mad. And I mean, I can understand taking him out of a game after 109 pitches. That's a lot of pitches, but 76? I mean, he should have been in there for at least 2 more innings. You got to let that guy throw between 105 and 110 pitches before you take him out of the game. So just awful. But as far as the Dodgers are concerned, I don't see that. I don't see 101. I see more.
Could we see 2 100-game winners possibly out of the NL West?
No. The National
It's impossible, right?
It's too tough because first of all, aside from each other, okay, you go to some of these other divisions, okay? You got the St. Louis Cardinals, who are a very good team. Very good team. The Chicago Cubs are still a pretty good team. They're not going to roll over, okay? Actually, every team in that division, other than the Pittsburgh Pirates, are not going to roll over and die. They're all going to give you tough games.
And so, the Reds, the Reds
aren't as good as they've been. Okay. So all right. So, but still 3 out of those 5. And I mean, the National League East, you got 4 pretty good teams, maybe 5. We'll see about the Marlins.
The East is loaded.
Yeah, we'll see if the Marlins can actually do it again this year. And carry it over from last year. We'll see. I don't necessarily believe it. I got to see it to believe it that they can actually play 162 games and play the way they did last year in 57, 58, 60 games or whatever it was.
Well, that's the thing about we're going to have 162 games this year, not 60 games. So are the games that the Tampa Bay Rays played with their bullpen, using their bullpen to just manipulate a 60-game season? Is that going to get you all the way to the World Series this year?
I can't see that because I think these guys they're going to wear out their bullpen. I don't think that you can do that for a whole season. I think your starting pitching you've got to have starting pitching. And then I look at the Yankees, and I see Garrett Cole at the top, who's unflappable and an outstanding pitcher. one of the top 5 pitchers in the game. So you've got him at the top. The other guys, we'll see if they're healthy and if they stay healthy, which is really going to be the key. You've got guys like Kluber and Tylen pitching. I mean, that could be a beastly pitching staff, and then Jordan Montgomery to pitch to be the number 4 pitcher, and you're off. And Devi Garcia probably is going to be the number 5 pitcher, and then in July, you add Severino to the mix. They're going to be awfully good. And then the Yankees made some nice moves in the bullpen. I really, getting rid of Jonathan Holder and getting rid of Adam Ottavino and picking up Justin Wilson and picking up Darren O'Day. I think they were very good moves. Plus, they're incredibly less expensive. I mean, you think about it, Ottavino was making $9 million, right? And Holder was making $2 million, so that's $11 million. And then you picked up these guys for $4 million. Which gave the Yankees enough extra leftover cash to go out and bring back Brett Gardner. So I think they did it. I think the Yankees had a very good offseason. Would I have liked to have seen Bauer? Sure. But you know what? $35 million a year for him, I don't know about that.
No.
I mean, he's not. I mean, he's really had one great season. All his other seasons have been pretty good. But, I mean, he's not Jacob deGrom. He's not.
But this is why.
He's not Garrett Cole. He's not Verlander. He's not. I can't see that. And also last year, don't forget, that was his first year pitching in the National League. None of those guys had seen him before. Now that they've
which is a big deal.
Oh, it is a big deal. And now that they've seen him, they're going to be used to him. I mean, he was okay in the American League. He wasn't a bad pitcher. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on that. He was a good pitcher. But the degree of what he pitched last year, that's not going to happen again. And the Dodgers are going to be paying him $35 million a year. So let him do it.
I think it makes sense for the Dodgers to overpay him so they can kind of sustain this run that they're on, because he doesn't have to be the guy. You have Kershaw, who's a Hall of Famer, and Walker Buehler, who's one of my favorite non-Philadelphia athletes in sports. I love that guy.
Absolutely.
Vanderbilt guy, pedigree, just an awesome pitcher.
Yep.
And then, you have him in the 3-hole. I mean, even David Price in the 4-hole, that takes a lot of pressure off, the top 2 guys. No one has to be, and then, $35 million a year. Like if the Toronto Blue Jays signed Trevor Bauer and he was forced to be the anchor of that staff, I don't know how good that would have worked out.
Yeah, that would have been a disaster for him because he would have had to do it all by himself, and I don't know that he's got the temperament to do that. Plus, don't forget,
great temperament.
Yeah, he'd have to also be pitching against. I mean, whether you think the Red Sox are going to be good or not, the Red Sox are still a good hitting team. They can still hit the ball. Okay, so he'd have to be pitching against the Red Sox 19 times, the Yankees 19 times. That's not, he's going to play Tampa Bay 19 times. It's not going to work so well for him, But pitching in the National League, again, he hasn't been seen as much. But you know what? Now that they've seen him, I don't think he's going to be as effective as he was last year. I kind of
some comments here. Let's get to the top here. A lot of guys in the house. Jake Friel, what's going on? He agrees to the poll. I have the Dodgers repeating. It's not a bad pick because they're going to hit the shit out of the ball, and they're going to get probably close to 200 innings from 3 of their 5 starting pitchers. I mean, you look at Betts, you look at Seager, you look at Bellinger, you look at Muncy, you look at Turner. I feel like I'm missing someone. Maybe not. But that's enough right there.
Who's playing left field for them now? They got rid of.
So their projected lineup, according to RotoChamp, is
probably Bellinger, right?
Betts, Seager, Muncy, Justin Turner, Will Smith, the catcher, hitting 5th, Cody Bellinger hitting 6th, A.J. Pollock, he'll man an outfield position, and Chris Taylor will probably man and he'll probably be the left fielder.
Their lineup isn't all that great.
Oh, the Dodgers, yeah.
Their lineup isn't all that. They've got some good hitters in their lineup, but I mean,
There's just
they're
3 MVPs.
True, but the rest of the lineup isn't all that.
You're actually being serious. You're not being sarcastic.
Pollock is not that good. Pollock's also
He's a 7-hole hitter.
True, but he's also always hurt. Taylor is not. Taylor isn't all that good either. So, I mean, that's the pitcher. I mean, I know it's the National League, but I mean, in the American League, that wouldn't be considered all that great a lineup. They have 5, 6.
They're not in the American League.
Will Smith, how good?
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree at all with how Roto Champs.
How is he the number 5 hitter on that team?
I don't know.
He hits
Maybe it's a righty lefty. Maybe it's a righty lefty thing, but I don't agree with how that they're stacked here on Roto Champs. But
yeah, I think that they've got 5 terrific hitters on their team, and the rest of them are okay. You know, I think the Yankees have just as good a lineup, if not better. To be quite honest with you.
Yes, but the Yankees are not projected to win 101.5 games. The Yankees, in their own right,
have a better chance to win 101 games than the Dodgers do. And I base that on the fact that the American League doesn't have – there's a lot of real bad teams in the American League.
That's not a bad take. I can get behind that because the Yankees have a way better bullpen, and the Yankees – probably have a little bit of a better lineup.
I mean, if you look at the Yankees against the rest of the American League, take a look at who they have to play. Okay, I mean, honestly, in their division, you have the Orioles, who are horrible still. Okay, the Red Sox, who were a little better but not much better. I mean, I think the Red Sox finished 1 game ahead of the Orioles last year. I mean, I can't remember. I don't remember. Exactly.
I understand. It sounds right.
Yeah, it was pretty close. The Red Sox can hit, but they still have no pitching, and I don't know that Rodriguez is gonna bounce back from that COVID and lung problem that he had last year and the heart problem. Who knows with him? Nady Eovaldi's elbow. Who the heck knows with him? You know,
just to put in perspective how bad the Boston Red Sox rotation is, Nick Pivetta, who couldn't strike out you or me, is their 4th starter in the American League East.
That's my point.
Good luck with that, Boston.
That's my whole point. I mean, they brought back that other bum that they had last year, that left-handed guy that they had signed from the Twins, who wasn't any good. I can't remember his name now, but they brought him back. The Red Sox pitching is atrocious.
First betting tip of the 2 hour for baseball. Check the Red Sox. If Nick Pavetta's pitching, take the over. Just pound it. Blind bet.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And they still haven't fixed their bullpen, by the way, the Red Sox. I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays, to me, and the Tampa Bay Rays, to me, are going to be the wild card teams. I don't see anybody else but. The Toronto Blue Jays have a great lineup. They have a closer now in Kirby Yates, who's going to be dominant, and they have a young pitching staff that I think is going to be getting better and better this season. But boy, they can really hit. So watch out for them. And now they have Springer. He should really who's another great hitter to put in
Springer and Semien.
Yeah, that's right. They have Semien too. So between Springer and Semien and Guerrero and all the other guys that they have on their team that they can hit, whether it's Teoscar Hernandez, whether it's who was that?
Guy's a beast, Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, he is. He is a beast, and
he's just raw power.
Yep. And who's it? Biggio.
Kevin Biggio. I guess that pushes him to 3rd.
Yeah, and who's the other one?
We got Bichette, Biggio, Gurriel.
Bichette. I mean, they are loaded with hitters. That team. You
trust their bullpen, huh?
No, but I trust Yates. I think Yates is still pretty good. We'll see. I mean, I think Yates is going to be.
Yates had the bone chips and.
Yeah, I know he did. and he's gone from San Diego now. But Yates, when he was with San Diego, was pretty darn good. I mean, last year he was hurt. So I think pitching for Toronto will help him. Any idea about where Toronto's going to be playing this year? Have they announced that?
Buffalo again?
I haven't heard that though. I haven't heard that that there's a commitment yet to Buffalo. I've heard that they might be playing in Florida. So I don't know yet. I mean, I haven't heard anything yet. If any of you guys out there have heard anything,
if I were on the Toronto Blue Jays, I'd much rather be playing in Florida than Toronto.
Well, yeah, of course. All those guys would. They'll be playing golf during the day and then play baseball at night because that's what they do. But I think that team's going to be real good. Those are two teams that are going to be good, but the Central is going to be terrible. Other than the White Sox, and maybe the Twins, maybe. I
don't like the Twins at all. Let's get to some wins that we can bounce around to some of these other teams because I got a couple bets I placed this morning on some win totals that I think are just entirely too low. Greg Malakovic, he agrees to the poll. It's going to be tough to beat them. Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat them, but they don't have to win 102 games to hit the over on their win total and for them to still repeat as World Series champions. Bryce Blackwell, 91 wins. Bullpen will cost them.
I think that's a little low, but I think it's going to be somewhere between 95 and 97.
Tom Arnone, he agrees. Bryce Blackwell, Cardinals, 90 wins in the NL Central. First off, the Cardinals are going to walk away with the NL Central. Now, I know Chrome's in the chat. I know Chrome's listening. The NL Central stinks. The Pirates stink. The Reds stink. I'm not sold on the Cubs at all. And who else do I got there?
You're missing one team.
The Reds. The Reds stink.
Well, the Reds and Pirates stink. The Cubs are okay.
Oh, the Brewers. The Brewers, they might be okay, but they're never a complete team.
Yeah, they always seem to have problems on the mound.
If they're hitting good, they're not pitching good. If they're pitching good, they're not hitting good. Yelich had a down year last year. I fully expect him to return to MVP form, but Kane's older. I don't know. They're no competition for the Cardinals. The posted win total for the St. Louis Cardinals, Brad, is 86 games.
That's way too low.
I love the over. How can that over miss?
That should be an easy one.
I mean, you bring in Arenado. So you have Arenado and Goldschmidt, not only two of the best offensive guys at their respective positions, but Nolan Arenado.
They're both great defenders. I mean, Goldschmidt.
Excellent defenders.
Yeah, they're both very good at their positions.
Excellent defenders. And, they have Flaherty at the top, even though their starting rotation doesn't blow me away. It's good enough to beat those chunk teams.
Flaherty's very good. The rest of it can be a little bit up and down, but the Cardinals are going to be a very difficult team to beat this year, especially in that division.
Champ has the Cardinals picked 4th in their standings, updated this morning, at 78 wins.
I totally disagree with that.
How is that? I mean, Edmonds pretty good.
They
have a hole at.
Their top 5 is very, very good as far as offense goes.
Paul DeJong is a great power hitting middle infielder. They are going to miss Colton Wong.
Paul DeJong won't have the kind of pressure that he's had the last couple of years to produce now that Arenado is there.
I mean, they'll miss Colton Wong's defense, Gold Glove caliber defense. Their outfield's weak. Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, and Harrison Bader. But all those guys can run and are going to play good defense.
I like Bader.
I do too. He can run and defend.
Yeah, he can hit a little bit too. I think he'll be okay over 162.
Tyler O'Neill, he's got some power, but he's not a pure hitter, and he never walks. But I mean, Yachty's still behind the plate. DeYoung, Goldschmidt, Arenado in the center. I mean, I don't see anyone beating them in the Central.
No. You got a couple of average teams. I think they're above average. I think Cincinnati is below average. Pittsburgh is awful. They're gonna lose 105, 110 games, between 105, 110 games. They're really bad.
The Pittsburgh Pirates have the lowest posted win total in Vegas since the 1993 expansion Miami Marlins, then Florida Marlins.
Wow. So
58 games.
How many?
58 is their posted total.
I take the under.
How could you not? They have nobody. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing the way they've run their organization.
Yeah, no, they're not going to win 58 games. No
I mean,
way.
we bitch in Philadelphia about the Eagles getting ripped off for Carson Wentz. Go Google the Josh Bell to the Washington Nationals trade. That'll blow your mind. Josh Bell's an excellent player. He's a run producer. He's going to help the Washington Nationals immensely, and the Washington Nationals and Mike Rizzo got him for absolutely nothing. Unbelievable.
Look at the talent. Look at the Jameson Talon trade. I mean, that trade didn't make any sense. The Yankees gave the highest prospect the Yankees gave up in that trade was number 18 in their organization. Their 18th prospect. I mean, they didn't get anything for him either. I mean, I don't get what the Pirates are doing. I mean, it's not like Talon was making any money either. He wasn't. What is he making? $2.5-3 million this year?
If he's playing for Pittsburgh didn't pay him. They don't pay anybody.
Oh, I know that.
So he can't be making any money.
So, I mean, that team's an embarrassment. I think 58 under 58 is a lock. That should be easy money if you want to bet that.
How about another steal?
I love the Cardinals, and I love over with the Cardinals, and I love under with the Pirates.
How about the Fernando Tatis mega deal, Brad?
That kind of caught me a little bit by surprise, only because it's how many years they're paying him for. But
I don't understand. This is a steal for the Padres. This is an absolute steal for the Padres.
He's going to be a great player. The only question I have is if he's going to spend all 14 years of that contract in San Diego. That's really the only question. I mean, good for the Padres. I'm glad to see that. They really do have a face of their franchise. It's going to hang around for a long, long time. Because I mean, Manny Machado. I don't know after next year. I
believe he has an opt-out after this year.
After this year, so I mean, there's a possibility that you might see him leave.
But you got to be thinking he's excited to be. I mean, they're building a monster there in San Diego, and for San Diego, I mean, for what Fernando Tatis is going to give you over the next 5 years in his prime, $25 million is way too cheap. I don't know what his agent's doing compared to that, because Bryce Harper, I mean, he gets 13 for $330. That's 25 a year, give or take. So Bryce Harper's the same caliber of player over the next 13 years, roughly, than Fernando Tatis Jr. Look at it in perspective. Who would you rather have at $25 million over the next 15 years? Bryce Harper or Fernando Tatis Jr.?
Probably.
I love Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's my son. He's my favorite Philadelphia athlete. Now that Carson Wentz is gone and those pickings are slimmer, Bryce Harper is an animal. Anyone who hates Bryce Harper doesn't know anything about baseball. They just don't. And I would trade Bryce Harper for Fernando Tatis Jr. in 5 seconds.
Well, what is he, like 22 years old?
Yeah, he's 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's really young. You know, and I'll tell you what, credit to our good buddy out in San Diego for giving us the
Bob Chandler. He told us he was the best Padres ever seen.
Yeah, Bob Chandler said he was the best player he ever saw play for the Padres. And really, how many games did he see him play? Not all that many. But, he's right. He was right on the money. He loved Fernando Tatis Jr. So, I mean, that was a pretty good call on his part. But San Diego is going to be a very exciting team to watch in the National League.
That's another reason why you can't. I think it's irresponsible to bet the Dodgers over 101.5 wins. I don't know if the Dodgers are going to win the NL West.
It's going to be close. It's going to be close, and I don't
exactly.
You're not going to. I mean, San Diego has 100-win capability just as much as the Dodgers do. I think San Diego's lineup is probably better than the Dodgers lineup, to be quite honest with you. So,
I don't know about that. I don't know where you're getting all this, throwing all this shade towards the Dodgers' everyday lineup. I think you're out of your mind.
Well, I don't think Smith's that good. I don't think that Pollock is that good, and I don't think Taylor's all that good. That's a 7, 8, and 9 hitters. And then,
these are established. I mean, Will Smith, he's a prospect. He's a young guy, but he showed great strides during the bubble last year, and he's ready to be a full-time catcher. There's no pressure on him offensively.
Okay, but still, you put him in the American League compared to an American League lineup?
But they're not in the American League. Stop. The American League has a DH. Any National League lineup I spout out, I get it. The Yankees are great. They have a DH. They're going to win all these games. They're going to get all these home runs. I get it. The Dodgers are playing with one less knife. They don't have a DH. There's no DH there this year.
You took Giancarlo Stanton and you put him in left field, okay? You'd still have a pretty damn good lineup.
I get it. That's not the argument. The Dodgers don't have to do anything better than the Yankees to repeat as World Series champions and win over 101.5 games or under 100.5 games. It's a moot point.
Everybody makes like their lineup is like, you know, the 27 Yankees lineup. It's not. It's good. It's very good. But, you know,
it's by far the best lineup in the National League.
Okay, maybe.
And no doubt about it, the second best lineup in baseball. Maybe the first best lineup in baseball. I do give the Yankees a slight edge, even if you take the DH out of it. But, I mean, to throw shade at the Dodgers' everyday lineup saying it's not that good because of established guys like Chris Taylor and A.J. Pollock is responsible. You just told me how much you like the Cardinals lineup when
I do like
O'Neill, Bader, and Carlson are huge unknowns. Taylor and Pollock are better than those guys in the Cardinals outfield.
Are they going to play, though?
Who?
Pollock, especially Pollock.
Well, I mean, Pollock's injury issues are well known.
If a bird takes a crap on his head, he's going to be out 3 weeks with a concussion. I mean, Pollock is ridiculous. Pollock should be a DH because he's always getting hurt. I mean, he's like Stanton. It's hard to trust the guy because he has to play the outfield every day. I don't think he's going. Now with Jock Peterson in left, I think they're going to be missing a little bit with that, having to make him play all those games. So we'll see. I mean, they have a good bench too. So I guess. I mean, again, it's hard. It's hard to compare when you watch.
But you have 6 of the 8 guys that are probably going to hit 25 plus home runs. What are you looking at?
Yeah, they might. They might.
So, like, I get it. They're not as good as the Yankees. Doesn't mean that you throw shade at them and dismiss them. Come on.
Or Minnesota's offense. I mean, Minnesota has a pretty great offense, too.
I'm out on the Twins this year.
Oh, I don't like their pitching at all.
Tom Arnone, if the Dodgers don't win 100-plus games, they have failed. I totally disagree with that. If the Dodgers don't win the World Series, they have failed. They can win 85 games, sneak into the last wild card spot. If they win the World Series, everything's fine.
Yes.
It's World Series or bust, not win 100 games or bust in Los Angeles. Mike Parker's digging the baseball talk. Yeah, I am too. Baseball's fun. Baseball's a lot of fun. And I understand it's acquired taste because people think it's boring and it takes too long. And it's a strategic game, which people who don't like baseball, I feel like they're not smart enough to understand what's fully going on in baseball.
Absolutely. I mean, if you watch the game and you know the game, every pitcher against every batter, it's a strategic situation because the pitcher is trying to set up the batter to get a strikeout or to get him to hit the ball on the ground. You know, and the batter is trying, and you know the batters are trying to hit the ball in certain places. I mean, it is all strategy, and that's the key. You know, hang on, Robert. I just want to put some light on because I didn't realize how dark it got. My goodness.
Good idea, Mike Parker. They still have Kike Hernandez. I believe he's moved on.
No, I think he's still there. Yeah, that's better.
I mean, they have Gavin Lux off the bench. I think he's moved on. Hey, Edwin Rios.
Isn't Gavin Lux supposed to be a big time player?
He's a big time prospect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
We'll see how they do it and how they manage him, with presumably minor leagues being a thing again. And Edwin Rios. I mean, he's a bat too off the bench.
Oh, there's no question they're a loaded team, but the pitching is what is going to get them. Is what's going to get them through. They have terrific pitching. I mean, there's I can't throw any shade at their pitching at all. Not their starting pitching. I mean, they've got their starting pitching is 6-7 pitchers deep. It's going to be that's going to be the one thing they'll score. They have a good enough lineup that they should score 4 to 5 runs a game minimum. And with that pitching, I mean, unless the bullpen blows up, which can be their weak spot at times, they're going to win an awful lot of games. I just don't see 102 wins though. Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the National League.
It's a lot of wins.
You don't really appreciate how many wins that is until you get out there and you take a look at all these teams and how many wins they all have. I mean, that's
all right. Let's move on. Let's get to the NL East, because I think that top to bottom might be the best division in baseball.
Without a doubt. I think you have possibly a 500 team finishing last.
No, because the Marlins aren't going to do anything this year. They'll be a 70-win team, just like they were supposed to be last year, but they caught fire in a nonsense 56 or 60-game season.
Okay.
Same with the San Francisco Giants. These teams aren't going to be able to sustain success over a 162 game season.
Most likely not, but I will give credit where credit is due. I know that the Phillies did re-sign their catcher.
JT Realmuto back in the mix.
Exactly.
Correct.
So they got him and they kept him, which is great. But they did give up a very good pitcher in Sixto Sanchez. And, he might be a top-of-the-line starting pitcher. And maybe he is an ace. It just seems like a lot of these guys have no pressure in Florida, in Miami. And, with no pressure can come big things. That team, and they always give you guys trouble for whatever crazy reason. I mean, we'll see. The Nationals are going to be 100 times better this year than they were last year. Last year, they had a bad year. Whether it was just listening to their headlines. I know, obviously, losing one of their stars to the Angels certainly hurt them. Who they lose? Trey Turner.
No, they still have Turner.
Which one? They lost the other Rendon, right? It was Rendon.
They lost Rendon, third baseman. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost Rendon to the Angels. So then the injury to the injuries to their pitching. So they had a rough year last year, but you got to think that they're going to be awfully good. And now to be able to steal a first baseman from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are just fire selling their team again this offseason, that team's going to be real tough. Atlanta is real good. The Mets have made a lot of real good moves. I think they're going to be extremely improved over last year. And, I think the Phillies are going to be pretty good too. Again, it's all going to come down to the pitching. But we'll see about that. But, for teams in other divisions that have to play teams in this division, I think that these teams are all going to feast on teams outside their division.
I mean, the NL East is like the Eastern Division in hockey.
Yeah. They have.
You wish it was kind of spread out a little more, like some of those stinky Central teams were mixed in there. Maybe you send the Braves to the Nationals to the Central. It kind of even things out a little bit. Even though top to bottom, the National League is rather impressive. Like you have the Phillies projected 4th place, according to Rodon Champs, at 83 wins. I mean, the New York Mets projected at 93 wins by them as division champions. I'm not buying that at all. Not buying the Mets at all until I see it. They always mess this up.
I don't know that they're going to win that many games. I mean, the Mets still. I still question the Mets bullpen. I'm not sold on their bullpen at all. So we'll see about that. Starting pitching, though. I mean, listen, the Mets do have very good starting pitching, and they just picked up Taijuan Walker. We'll see about him if he's healthy and he can pitch and be effective. Low risk kind of high ceiling kind of guy. I don't think that was a bad move at all.
Wasn't that a trade a couple of weeks ago? The Mats deal.
Mats was terrible. I mean, Mats is gone, but they still have DeGrom at the top. Stroman is back. Carrasco, don't forget about him. Then you're gonna have Peterson and then Taijuan Walker. That's a pretty good staff. And then in June, you figured, Thor is going to be back. So, I mean, that's a pretty good pitching staff, and they can definitely hit the ball. No question about that. And then they add a superior shortstop. I mean, one of the best in the game.
And is he going to be able to play the whole left side of the infield, Brad? Because they don't have a third baseman that's worth anything.
J.D. Davis, you don't like him?
Well, I like him at the plate. I think he's a gifted hitter, but I mean, I don't think defensively that's what you need at third base to ultimately, win 93 games and win a division championship in the hardest division in the National League.
He can guard the line. That's basically what's going to happen.
guard the line and let Lindor do everything else.
That's probably what's going to happen, though.
It's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I really like the Braves.
Yeah,
at this time of year, I always look at the Braves roster, and I don't pick them to win the NL East, but they're going to win the NL East. I'm fairly confident in that.
They're a very good team. That the Braves always manage to do what they have to do. I mean, again, you have to wonder with their pitching, how good is Soraka going to be? Is he going to be healthy enough to be a real factor this year? They're still going to be good, though. I think they have enough to still win the division. Their offense is just off the charts good. Yeah,
Acuna, Friedman, Ozuna.
Yeah,
Arenard, pretty good catcher. Ozzie Albies, who's a stud. Dansby Swanson, who's pretty good. Austin Riley, who I think is just a superstar waiting to happen from a power standpoint.
He's a good hitter. I mean, it's going to happen for him. He just needs to play.
And Christian Pache, or however you pronounce his last name, he's an up and comer. Looks like he's going to get the nod at one of the outfield, left field, I guess. No, I guess I'll have to play center. Kuna plays right. Riley plays. Or no, I'm sorry, they're putting Riley at third.
When you look at Acuna and Freeman, back-to-back.
Freeman is just such a terrific ball player.
Just those two guys back to back on that team. That might be the best. That might be the best combo in baseball right now.
Then I'm in on the Phillies. I think the Phillies are going to be good. I think the Phillies are going to make the playoffs.
I don't know what they're pitching. I don't know if their pitching's good enough.
Well, Dombrowski worked hard this offseason.
No,
he made the baseball team a lot better.
Bradley is pretty good. Who was the other decent reliever that they signed? They signed one other pretty decent well-known reliever. I just can't remember who it was off the top of my head.
Well, they signed Tony Watson.
Tony Watson, thank you. Yeah, Tony Watson.
Archie Bradley.
Yeah, Tony Watson and Archie Bradley, I think, are going to be an upgrade. Well, their bullpen is going to be better than it was last year. They're going to get some outs this year. The question with the Phillies is going to be, is going to come from the 3, 4, and 5, Eflin's going to be the third pitcher, the number 3 pitcher this year.
Yeah. Then you have Velasquez, Spencer Howard, Ivan Nova, and Chase Anderson. Chase Anderson, I've actually seen him get outs.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled. With Chase. I'm not thrilled with Chase. Nova, I mean, he was with the Yankees and he's been with everybody else now. I've never liked Nova either, but I don't.
That won't last long.
Listen, the top 2, the numbers 1 and 2 pitchers are very good. Okay, when you got Nola, and then you've got what's his name, the guy from the Mets, Zach Wheeler.
Wheeler, very good pitcher. He's the ace of the staff, not Aaron Nola.
You got those two guys. Those two guys as your 1-2 combo. That's a nice little 1-2 combo. Somebody has to step up from the 3, 4, and 5 hole. One of those guys has to step up.
Well, I think Eflin has tools to be a good player in this league.
Listen, if he's good enough to be a number 3, I think the Phillies are going to be okay. I mean, we have to compare him to the other number 3 pitchers in the National League. If you really want to get analytical about this, you compare him to like some of the other number 3 pitchers in the league, and he probably is in the top half.
But I mean, where I really an improved bullpen and being able to hit the baseball consistently. I mean, McCutchen leading off, no one could get him out. Nobody could get him out over the last 2 weeks of the season when the Phillies were trying to desperately push towards one of them wild card spots. Nobody could get him out. No one could help get Harper out. Unfortunately, JT Realmuto was hindered by a hip flexor, hip pointer, whatever you want to call it, down the stretch last year.
They got Didi Gregorius back.
Gregorius, Segura. I'm not worried about JT Realmuto's thumb at all. JT Realmuto broke his.
He'll be fine.
He broke his thumb catching. He broke his throwing hand in a bullpen session, which something's not adding up there. I don't know what happened. Maybe he slammed his fist against the locker when he heard the Eagles traded Carson Wentz. I don't know, but I don't understand how you fracture your throwing hand thumb in a bullpen session. I could see him catching his offhand that he has his glove on, catching a bullpen. Maybe his thumb's not in there right by accident, and he catches a fastball. But, I mean, he's going to be fine.
I wouldn't worry about him. You look at the Phillies. The Phillies can hit. They got to hit better than they did last year, though. A couple of guys had off years last year. You would expect the first baseman to come back.
Hopefully. This is put up or shut up for Reese Hoskins.
Yeah. Reese Hoskins has to get back to being everyday Reese Hoskins, the one who hit a home run every day when he was a rookie. He has to get back to being somewhere near that level. I mean, you can't expect him to be as incredible as he was in the second half of his rookie season for a whole season. But there's no reason why you can't get 25 and 80 out of him.
That's what you need from a National League first baseman. Not a first baseman that goes up there who's not going to swing the bat or even pretend he's even at a professional baseball game, a participant in a professional baseball game until he has 2 strikes on him. No, I need you sitting back. I need you loading up early in the count. I need you driving those fastballs. Use the scouting report that you've created for yourself to your advantage.
Precisely.
Sit on those fastballs early and drive the baseball. Let's go.
He needs to have a good year. You need it from him. I think you can pretty much expect the usual hitting from your second baseman. Your shortstop is going to be very good. I mean, Gregorius is going to give you probably 25 home runs and 70 RBIs, just like he always used to do for the Yankees. He might get a little more, might get a little less, but you know what you're going to get from him. He's one of those guys that when he's hot, he can carry a team for a month. Then he's going to have a week where he gets no hits in an entire week. But that's kind of where it is with him. But you can win with a player like him. He's still a superior defensive shortstop. Third base, you're going to be good. And
third base, Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm, all-star. All-star, Alec Bohm. He's your top prospect. You're going to be good there. Future batting champ.
Yeah, you got the great Bryce Harper out in right field. I mean, they're they should be okay, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in left if McCutchen can stay healthy. That's a must. You got to get at least 100. You need you need at least 100 to 110 games out of him this year.
Who?
McCutchen. Got to get 110 games out of him. If you can get 110 games, because you don't want you can't play him much more than 110 games. He's going to get tired because he's not a young player anymore, and he does get injured a lot. So figure around 110. If you can get 110 really good games out of him, you should be just fine in the outfield.
I'm not even worried about 110. That's a low bar. That's a low bar. Now you factor in the off days. The only way he doesn't get to 110 is if he gets a major injury.
Right, but Joe Girardi is one of those managers that likes to rest guys a lot. So you'll probably see. That's
fine. You have Kingery, you have Hazley, you have the really it in terms of Travis Jankowski. He might make the team. He played on San Diego the last couple of years. He might make the team.
You'll probably. I mean, listen. You're not going to see him playing day games after night games. Girardi's not going to let that happen. One thing Joe Girardi does that I know he did a lot with the Yankees, and I'm sure he's going to do the same thing with the Phillies. Probably did it last year. Is he's going to manage to make sure these guys don't get hurt, and he's going to manage to make sure that these guys are rested and effective and not overplayed, so that he can play them every day in September and try to make a late run. There's one thing this team doesn't seem to do well the last few years is play through August and September. They seem to run out of gas at the end of July, and that's got to stop.
And another thing with the Phillies, they don't really strike out. I mean, Bryce Harper's going to strike out, but he's also going to walk a lot. Reese is going to strike out, but I mean, McCutchen doesn't strike out. Bohm doesn't strike out. Realmuto doesn't strike out. Didi doesn't strike out. Segura doesn't strike out. Strikeouts kill you. And nobody seems to care that guys strike out all the time these days, except me and you. Like, you got to put the ball in play. You got to walk. Like, strikeout kills you.
Yeah. The one thing I would say though is Didi doesn't walk a lot.
No, he doesn't walk a lot, but he doesn't strike out a lot.
Strike out a lot either. He doesn't strike out a lot.
That's fine. If you're going to strike out, you got to draw walks like Harper does.
It's going to be the key for the Phillies is going to be on the mound. If they can get a reasonable performance, even if they can get league average out of their 3, 4, and 5 starters, then Wheeler and the Wheeler can carry the team. You've got enough pitching at the top where you should be fine.
And then you get the third contending team in this division. I don't consider the Mets contenders. I really don't. I think it's a 3-horse race between the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Braves in the East.
I totally disagree with you. The Mets are a pretty good team. I mean, you take a look at the way they've improved their team, especially defensively with behind the plate. They've improved. First base, they're very good at first base. They're very good at second base. With McNeil, you got Pete playing first base, who's really good. Shortstop, you're solid now, real solid. Third base, they can hit. I mean, Dominic Smith in left. Their center fielder, who's their center fielder? Nemo, I think, is in center, and then in right, Conforto. They're pretty good. That's a pretty good offensive baseball team, and they've got very good starting pitching. The Mets' problem is going to be their bullpen. I think their bullpen is still bad.
Very bad.
Yeah, I think
very, very, very bad.
Really.
I think 85 wins is their ceiling. I think the Mets' ceiling is 85 games. I'm not impressed. Really not.
I can see 88. I
think it's going to take 90, 95 games because the only team we haven't talked about in this division is the Washington Nationals, which they're loaded. They're loaded up. You get Trey Turner. Maybe Kyle Schwarber can get his head out of his ass and have a good season like he was supposed to have over there in Chicago. Josh Bell and Juan Soto in the middle of the order. Looks like Starling Castro, who can still hit, is going to play second base for him. And then you have Victor Robles and Carter Kieboom, two excellent young-looking players.
I think Victor Robles is going to have a big year this year. Victor Robles, I mean, he's been knocking at the door for a couple of years now. I think it's time for him to really bang the door down and do it in style. I expect a lot from him. And of course, there's three starters are second to none. I mean,
and Patrick Corbin's coming off a down year in the 60-game season, but I don't really put too much stock into that. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to bounce back.
I think a lot of these pitchers are going to bounce back, Rob, because they didn't throw that many innings last year. I think their arms are probably going to be a little stronger this year.
And then Mad Max, he's just unbelievable. Fountain of youth. He strikes out everyone, never walks anybody. Unbelievable. And then Strasburg. Now, I think they're going to have problems because I don't trust John Lester in their fourth. I
think John Lester will be okay as a number 4 starter. I think, and
boy, I don't know. He's looked old in the past couple.
I understand that, but Washington is not such a small field like Wrigley. I mean, Wrigley's pretty unforgiving. If you get one of those win days and you're hanging that slider like he was doing last year, he's going to get hit. I think in Washington it's a little bit bigger ballpark. I think he'll be okay there. Now he's not himself. I mean, he's old now. What is he? 36, 37 at this point.
And then you got Fetty and Joe Ross as buying for the 5th spot, which isn't good. Which I think that 4 or 5 starter, I think that's going to keep them out of the postseason. I think the Phillies steal that second wild card. Because, I mean, the way their starting rotation is set up right now, they have to be perfect. They have to be healthy, and they each have to win at least 15 games for them to get to the playoffs.
Between Mad Max,
Corbin,
and Corbin, they're gonna have to. You're right. They're gonna have to. And you know what, you're gonna have to at least get 10 wins out of Lester.
I don't see it.
Well, no, I'm just telling you for them to win the division or to make the playoffs, I think you're gonna need at least 10 wins out of him. He can't sit there. He can't sit there and be 4-11, and expect Washington to be able to win a division or make the playoffs with a record like that. I don't think that's going to happen.
They did a great job getting Brad Hand on a 1-year, $10 million deal.
That was a very good move.
And they still have Hudson back there. Will Harris, he's okay. And say that Washington has a better bullpen than the Phillies, or the Phillies have a better bullpen than Washington because of Brad Hand and Hudson. But I think the Phillies are a little bit of a better team than Washington.
Oh, I
really do.
I can't give you that. Can't give you that right now.
Well, maybe you'll wise up as the season gets closer.
That's pretty tough. I mean, let's see what kind of year Nola has, because I mean Nola's got to step up and be that big number 2 or 1A pitcher along with Wheeler. Because remember, you're going to have to get some wins out of these guys, and Archie Bradley is going to have to be your stopper, I think, in order for you guys to be effective. If Archie Bradley can come out of the bullpen and get you 30 saves, I think you guys are going to be fine. I think that could be the key, because you guys got to protect leads. How many games did you lose last year because your bullpen took all leads? I mean, especially some of those losses were
brutal.
If I was watching those games and I was a Philly fan, I mean, some of those losses would have just made me nuts.
Brad, they were up 8-1 in the last inning against the Blue Jays.
I remember
and
that.
They lost.
I know.
They lost.
They had a 7-1 game against somebody else too.
Maybe it was 7-1.
Well, no,
I'm sure when you look back, there's a bunch of them. The bullpen was horrid.
Yeah, they lost so many games in their bullpen last year. at least now they've got a couple of guys that I think in Watson and Bradley. I think you got a couple of guys there that are going to be pretty solid. I think that you're going to see Watson in the 8th and Bradley in the 9th. That would be if I'm Joe Girardi, that would be my bridge right there to those two in the 8th and 9th, and hopefully some of these other guys, he can mix and match and get some outs in the 7th and 8th innings. The key is going to be you're always going to get your 7 innings out of Wheeler. I mean, that just seems to happen every outing, right?
It did last year.
Yeah, well, he did that with the Mets too. I mean, he throws it. He's an innings eater, and he's a pretty doggone good pitcher. And Nola, if Nola cannot miss too many starts, if you can get 30 starts out of Nola, and he can at least give you 6 innings a game, you should be okay with him too. It's the other guys I really worry about, and Eflin really has to pick it up. If Eflin has a decent year, and again, you have to look at Eflin against other number 3 starters. You can't sit there and worry about whether he's an ace or not. Is he, as a number 3 starter, who is he better than? He might be better than half the league, to be honest with you. And if he's better than half the league, he'll probably win you 10, 12 games. And if he does that, you're probably, you could be a wild card team. You could be. I don't see them winning as many games as the Braves, though. I don't.
No, the Braves are going to win the East. They're too good. Because you look at their lineup, which is awesome. Their bullpen is pretty good, and their starting pitching is absolutely it's deep and it's very good.
Yeah, well, Soroka is outstanding. Fried, when he's on, is real good. They've got
Fried, Charlie Morton they bring in, Ian Anderson, who's just a superstar waiting to happen, Drew Smiley, Kyle Wright, who's a big-time prospect.
Don't like Drew Smiley at all. He's always getting hurt too, but they still have enough. Their offense is just terrific.
They're the most complete team probably in the National League.
As far as offense is concerned, their offense might be the most complete offense in baseball.
Offense, starting pitching, and bullpen. I can't give the nod to that for the Dodgers. Dodgers are going to win more games just because they're more talented. But if you look at balance, the Braves are extremely, extremely balanced. Dominic checking in on YouTube. He wants to know who we got winning. Who you got winning the NL West?
He's still has to go with the Dodgers, but I'll tell you what. I think San Diego is going to give them a big time run for their money.
I have to go with the Dodgers too, and I'm going under 101.5 wins for the Dodgers. It's just an astronomical, ridiculous win total. Getting to the American League, Brad, I think the American League is very weak. I really do. I think you have teams like the Rangers. I think you have teams like the Rangers who stink. There's others. I think the Red Sox aren't very good. I think
the Orioles still stink.
The Orioles stink. Like that was smoke and mirrors. Their success last year was smoke and mirrors.
The Tigers stink. I think Kansas City will be a little bit better.
I like the Royals. The Royals are going to score runs.
Yeah, they're going to be they'll be a little bit better. But for the most part, I mean, Kansas City.
I wonder if you can get a bet on the Kansas City Royals making the playoffs. I'd throw a few dollars on that.
I don't see that. They're not as good as Tampa Bay, and they're definitely not as good as Toronto.
I'm not in on Tampa Bay this year. They lost Charlie Morton. They lost Blake Snell. They're not going to be able to play those bullpen games over 162 games.
Yeah, but they're going to get Chirinos back from Tommy John. He's supposed to be ready. He's supposed to be ready to be in spring training. They're going to get there. They still have Glass now. There was one other guy. I can't remember who the other one. They have 3 solid pitchers.
Glass now, Rich Hill, Chris Archer, Yarborough, Waka.
I don't like that. Waka, I think, is going to be their number. Is going to be in the bullpen. Archer,
he's not good anymore.
No, Archer isn't good anymore either. But I still think Tampa Bay just finds a way to win games. They're going to be tough. Don't count them out. And Toronto is a terrific young team. They're the two.
Springer and Simeon. They're going to score a lot of runs. I think they have just enough to grab a wild card. But that second wild card in the American League, I look at teams like the Angels. I look at teams like the Royals. The Angels, they might win the West.
The Angels could get a wild card.
I don't think Houston's winning the West.
No, I
think Oakland's winning the West. Oakland, I mean, losing Semien is a big deal for the Oakland A's. A big deal.
It is because he was a really good. He was very underrated. He was a very good offensive player. He did not have a good year last year, but again, 60 games is not your normal season. Your normal season is 162. You don't know that the other 100 games he could have turned it around and had a big second half.
Look, good players like Marcus Semien over the long haul, they're going to get their stats.
Yeah, he's going to get his 270, 280. He's going to hit over 20 home runs as a shortstop. He's going to get a lot of RBIs. He can also steal. He's a very good defensive shortstop. He's a very good player. Then you got guys like Biggio and of course Vladdy, who's one of the top players in the game already. He's getting moved to first base, so you don't have to worry about him injuring himself anymore. And they signed Springer. I mean, that's a big move. Kirby Yates now is the closer out there, so they have an established closer. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be very, very good. So I mean, that's a very solid baseball team there. I don't think they're as good as the Yankees, but I think they're going to make the playoffs.
And then going back to the A's, like Bassett, Luzardo, Montas, Minaya, Fires. I mean, that's nothing to write home about. Nothing to write home about it at all.
But it's good enough to win the West because of their lineup. Their lineup is very good. They still have a good lineup. They can hit the ball.
Rosenthal, I mean, I don't see it with the A's, and I don't see it with the Astros. Losing Springer, no Verlander, Greinke another year older. I don't like their bullpen, and I'm sorry, Framber Valdez, while he looked excellent at times in a shortened season, I'm sorry, he's not a number 2 pitcher. He's not a number 3 pitcher. I don't trust him over 162 games at all. I think the Astros got huge pitching problems.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm not big on the Astros either. They're losing Springer is a big deal for them.
Huge.
That's a big deal. I mean, you just took a huge component out of that team, and they've been getting a little worse every year. I think this is the year that they're not going to make the playoffs. I agree with you about that. I think the Angels might catch them this year.
You look at the Angels. I mean, like, come on, you got to do something. You have Mike fucking Trout, for God's sakes. You got to do something at some point.
And you got Anthony Rendon, for crying out loud.
Justin Upton, Shohei Ohtani. They traded for Dexter Fowler. Jose Iglesias, he's a glove at least. David Fletcher's a very underrated hitter. I don't know what more has to line up. I mean, their starting pitching could be better. It'll be interesting to see if Ohtani can pitch as well as he was pitching before he needed Tommy John surgery.
Well, that's going to be interesting because the thing with him also is, he's a great hitter. He is a really good hitter.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see how they balance that.
Yeah, because obviously the game after, he's not going to hit the game he pitches, and he's also not going to hit probably the day after he pitches. So he'll be hitting probably 3 games a week. I mean, am I wrong about that? You think he's going to hit the day after he pitches? Maybe won't his body be too sore?
DH? I don't know. I would imagine no. I would imagine he would play DH 3 times and pitch. Because remember how they had it set up when he first started going? His Sunday was Ohtani Day. He would just pitch every Sunday.
Right. And
if he had to take an extra break or
because they're usually in baseball, most teams are off on Monday. So
Monday or Wednesday or something like that.
Yeah, usually most teams are off on Monday. So they, because it's considered usually it's a travel day because teams are, they have their home stands and then they pack up and leave. So usually they're off Monday. You're right, because he did pitch Sundays and then he was off Monday, so he was able to pitch to hit the next few days. I just don't think he's going to hit the day after he pitches. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would just think that wouldn't your body be just? I know they're young and they're in terrific shape, but wouldn't your arm be a little sore after the next day? I mean, it takes a couple of days kind of to get back in shape and start throwing again, right? I mean, am I wrong about that, or? I mean,
no, I think that's accurate.
Yes, but I think the Angels can come in second. I think they can beat out Houston this time.
But that's why I look at a sleeper team like the Royals, who 72 wins is way too low. I'll take the over there.
Is that all that they have? Is that all that they're giving them?
Yeah, I have the over. I have the over 72.5 for the Kansas City Royals. I'm not a believer in the Minnesota Twins at all. And I think the White Sox are going to roll in that division.
I agree with you. The White Sox are ready to go.
We already talked about Detroit stinking. Cleveland's got no pop. They lost Carrasco and they lost Santana and they lost the best shortstop.
And Salazar, I think he's gone now too, isn't he?
Anyway, I mean, you lose Lindor and Santana from your lineup.
Yeah, and you lose Carrasco out of your starting rotation. So I mean,
add Rosario, Cleveland, that is.
Yeah, but
Naylor, Cesar Hernandez. I mean, Franmil Ramirez. He's got some pop. I mean, Mercado's unproven. Daniel Johnson, I've never even heard of. Andres Gimenez, I've never even heard of. Roberto Perez, I mean, he's not very good.
He's a very good defensive catcher, but he can't hit. So
I look at Cleveland. I look at Kansas City as a team.
Shane Bieber, by the way, is out with COVID right now.
Well, he has COVID. He's going to be fine because 99.9% of people who get COVID are fine.
Well, at that age, yes.
But I mean, you look at Kepler, Ariz, Donaldson, Nelson Cruz is back. I guess he can still get another season out of Nelson Cruz, even though he's over 4.
He can still hit.
Sano is good. Simmons is a good defensive catcher or defensive shortstop. But I mean, I'm not buying the Twins at all. So I'm looking at a Chicago, Kansas City 1-2 in the AL Central. Because at least Kansas City, while I don't like their pitching, Merrifield, Benintendi, Carlos Santana, who goes from Cleveland to Kansas City. Jorge Solar's got power for days. Salvador Perez did not play last season. He will be back. Hunter Dozier's pretty good. Mondesi can run. Nicky Lopez can run. And Michael Taylor, he comes over from Washington. You know, he's okay. Serviceable guy.
He's okay. The White Sox are clearly the best.
Oh, I'm not arguing that at all. The White Sox are loaded. They're young. They're talented. They're going to score a lot of runs, and they have enough pitching.
Yes, they do.
Getting Lance Lynn, the Chicago White Sox getting Lance Lynn, that's the move that's going to make the biggest difference on any team that nobody's talking about. Lance Lynn is a really good pitcher.
That was under the radar. That was a good under the radar move for them.
Like now you have Keuchel, you have Giolito, who's a Cy Young candidate, Lance Lynn, and then you have two young kids and Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon. If you remember Carlos Rodon before he got Tommy John surgery and got injured, he was striking out guys left and right.
Yeah, the problem with Carlos Rodon is that he always seems to get injured every year. It's always something with him. When he's healthy, he is really good. You know, and I think they have Liam Hendricks as their closer now, correct?
Another great signing. Liam Hendricks has got stuff for days.
Yeah, that's a big time move right there.
Aaron Bummer, Evan Marshall, Rolando Lopez. I mean, those guys are.
They're all young.
We'll,
they're all young, but you have to figure that they're gonna that one of these guys could break out, and if one of these guys does break out, Reynaldo Lopez, we've been on him for years. What about Covey? Isn't he still on the team? Dylan Covey.
Dylan Covey? Who's that?
He was a pitcher. I mean, they've been waiting for him too, unless they traded him. I think he was supposed to be a highly touted prospect on their team. I don't know if he's still on the team, but they're a real good young team. Got a lot of good young hitters on the team. I mean, they're going to be really, really tough to. There's no way in the Central Division unless they get a ton of injuries. They should win that division easily.
All right, Brad, I got to get your thoughts. And great baseball talk. Great baseball talk. But I got to get your thoughts on the Carson Wentz debacle, the saga. Everyone knows how I feel about it. I'm very much against this trade. We went on at 1:30 the day the trade happened in the snow. I was freaking out. Tom was freaking out. Wilson was freaking out. Victoria Taylor was crushed, heartbroken because her deal for the day, Carson Wentz, is just not in the mix anymore. Brad, this is an awful trade, right?
Well, as a Giant fan, I was very happy.
Not as a Giants fan. Be objective and
I am being objective. I just think he had a bad year. You know, a lot of guys have bad years when they're quarterbacks. Listen, Eli Manning one year threw 27 interceptions, and then he won 2 Super Bowls. So quarterbacks have bad years. It happens. Okay, and all this, and to trade a guy and end up having $34 million on your cap, that's ridiculously stupid. And it's not like they're getting a guaranteed first-round pick. And even if they get a first-round pick, okay, what's going to be like the 25th or 26th pick? And the third pick, and if they get a third pick, I mean, how many picks do they give up to move up to get him? I mean,
a lot.
Yeah, to me, that makes no sense. I'm not in the camp that thinks that Jalen Hurts is the answer as a quarterback. Okay, I think he's a good backup quarterback. I think he can add some spark to the team. But you know what? I think by the middle of the season, you know, they're going to have his number, and he's not going to be all that good. They kind of had his number towards the end of last season anyway. So I mean, he's a run-first quarterback, and I just don't. I think that was an awful trade for the Eagles. I think they could have done a lot better than what they got.
They can't because they dragged his name through the mud. They play these games, and they're surprised that they don't get anything back. And the Colts, from the Colts' perspective, the Colts just stole a franchise quarterback.
Well, of course they did. And you know what? You're putting him with Frank Reich, who is a very good offensive mind, in spite of the fact that he stumbled a little bit in that Buffalo game as far as his coaching. I think he's a very good coach. He definitely was on the same page as Carson. When you hear these stories about how he and Doug didn't get along, I mean, if you fire Doug, then why do you have to trade Carson? I mean, I could understand if they kept Doug, that they'd have to trade Carson. That I could understand. That would make sense to me. Okay, or if you if you kept Carson, you fire Doug. Okay, one or the other. But why get rid of both of them? Are you telling me both of them were the problem?
No, the only guy that was the problem, who's Howie Roseman, who picks the players and wants to control everything and control the roster. He's the only one that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as I said, as a fan of this opposing team, I mean, I'm happy that I don't have to face Carson Wentz twice a year. You know, I'd rather face a quarterback who can move around a little bit, but this doesn't have a big arm, and I don't know how accurate he is. I don't think he's much more than a guy like. I think he's kind of like Kaepernick. I mean, he's a guy that can run around a little bit, you know, maybe make a few plays, but I don't know that he's starting quarterback in this league. And you give away a guy who basically for three of his 4 years was a very good quarterback. So it doesn't make sense to me that they would do that. He didn't end the season injured. He was healthy at the end of the season. I mean, I just don't get it. You have a new coach. Why do you need to trade Wentz now? I would have given him one more year if it was me. I would have brought him back, figuring, okay, you have a new coach now. Let's give him one more shot. Now you're in a position where you almost have to draft a quarterback in the first round.
Oh, my God. Please no. Because the only one worth picking in the first round is Trevor Lawrence, and you're not going to get him. So what's the point of doing that? You're going to reach on another quarterback when you have all these like the holes on your team. Like the Eagles are a bad team, and they're only going to get worse because any veteran that makes any type of money when you're $50 million over the cap is safe. Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, all these guys could be either traded or cut to get you under the cap. $50 million.
They're in a tough spot. Now they did catch a little bit of a break because I think they moved the cap up to 180 now. So I mean
they did.
That's going to help, but the problem is you guys were so over the cap to begin with that they're gonna have to figure out ways to restructure some deals and do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that. Otherwise, they're going to have to deplete their roster and kind of start over again with a bunch of draft picks. So that's kind of what they're looking at. I did not like that trade. I don't think you guys got enough.
Even if Carson Wentz is worse than – even if Wentz is worse, a little bit worse than what Phillip Rivers gave the Colts last year, they still stole Carson Wentz.
But he's a quarterback. I don't understand how the Jets can get 2 first-round picks for a safety. Okay, best safety in the league. Okay, still a safety. Okay, the Jets get 2 first-round picks for a safety. The Giants get basically 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Odell Beckham, who's a wide receiver. Okay, coming off an injury. I don't get that. That trade does not make sense to me. He's still a quarterback, and he was a pretty darn good one. How do you just get a second and third round pick? Maybe becomes a first. I don't get that. That's just Howie panicking because he didn't get what he wanted, and why was he in such a rush to trade him anyway?
I don't understand. I don't understand. These guys think they can just pluck quarterbacks out of the air, and Jalen Hurts is not good. Sorry. I know he seems like a nice kid, and he's got some leadership qualities, but guess what? So did Tim Tebow, and he's retired from 2 sports now, not just 1. So, I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. He couldn't even hold down a Division I college job at a big-time school. He got benched in a national championship game. For a freshman. And this guy you're telling me this guy's your franchise quarterback? And not to mention, the Eagles aren't even sure. The QB factory, Howie Roseman, and all his eternal genius, he doesn't even think that Jalen Hurts is a franchise guy. He won't commit to him. He says they're going to bring in competition, whether it's a draft pick or a veteran, and they're very non-committal. To me, you only trade Carson Wentz if you're convinced that Jalen Hurts is your guy. And if he is your guy, right after you trade Carson Wentz, you say, we wanted to move on from Carson. It wasn't working out. We got what we got. We believe in Jalen. Nothing of the sort from the Philadelphia Eagles organization.
I don't think that was a very good trade at all. I think they could have done a lot better. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised they didn't get maybe a first, a second, and a third, something along those lines. They should have gotten 3. They should have gotten 3 players. I mean, whether they're 3 picks or 3 players, they should have gotten 3 too. If you don't get at least 3, and one of them is a guaranteed first round pick, how do you make that trade? I mean,
Moria McCabe. Unfortunately, Wentz didn't want to be here. I don't know that. Do you know that for sure? That's all speculation.
Yeah,
all speculation.
He
didn't say a word. And still somehow got crushed by the fake news media in this city.
Right. Well, that's a whole nother story within itself. But look, as far as Wentz is concerned, he never did say anything. And you know what? How do you know that he couldn't make friends with this new coach? How do you know that? I mean, you didn't even give it a chance. I mean, you haven't even had the new season, the new off season has just started. It's not like you've had a mini camp to talk things over, to any workouts, to throw the ball and that sort of thing. None of it. And for them to just go ahead and let him go is mind-boggling. It's really I don't get it at all.
Yeah, Don 19, you hit it right. Brad just touched on it. The Seattle Seahawks, they gave up 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. He's a safety.
He's a safety, and Odell Beckham, who was injured, by the way, the season after the Giants traded him, he was injured for the last 4 games. Okay, and you got basically, I'm saying 2 firsts and a third because Jabril Peppers was a first-round pick. So basically, you got 2 firsts and a third for him. That's Odell Beckham. He's a receiver, okay, and he's coming off of 2 injuries. How in the world, as a quarterback, okay, who had 1 bad year, how are you not getting more for that? I mean, it sounds to me like you've been right all along about Howie Roseman. He's the problem with that team. I mean,
it's terrible.
He's just awful. I mean,
now you have a stench. You have a stench in the organization that everyone thinks they're a miss. Every player that leaves this team says that they're poorly managed. It's not good when you're going to get free agents.
Well, they're not going to be able to get free agents this year anyway.
No, but I mean, what getting rid of Carson Wentz does do from a cap standpoint is this year it's a $33 million cap hit, $32 million cap hit, whatever it is, which how a cap wizard like Howie Roseman has the team $50 million over the cap and endures the biggest cap hit in NFL history of almost $33 million is beyond me. That's enough to get you fired because you can't draft. We know that. You meddle in the affairs that you drive everyone out of town. So now the cap's not right either and you still have a job. I don't understand that. But what getting rid of Carson Wentz does do is it's a $32 million cap hit this year, the biggest in NFL history. Then it's nothing down the road. So the Eagles are going to have money to spend after this year.
Yeah, but basically what they've done is what they're telling you is they're going to throw this year down the toilet.
Right. They're going to hang Nick Sirianni out to dry, a new coach. They're going to give him a bunch of trash because we talked about it last week about the dynamic of this organization that Nick Sirianni and these coaches, they have to make the players that Howie thinks is good into stars. And the players that Howie thinks are good stink. They stink. He can't draft. When Andy Reid was running the show, everyone used to get on Andy Reid for being a bad drafter. Andy Reid was a phenomenal drafter. Andy Reid always messed up the first round.
On his case about his drafting?
They'll get on your case about anything here in Philly. But, I mean, while Andy Reid did miss quite a bit.
I thought he was pretty good at drafting. I think sometimes you could question some of his play calling because I thought he threw too much.
Point being, he missed in the first round more than he should have, which is fine when you're going to hit in the second, third, and late rounds if to fill out the roster. Yusef Khan, Howie Roseman might be worse than Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen was god awful. Yeah, I mean it's dark times. Does anybody know if Chicago had a better deal for Carson Wentz? Rumors are that Chicago never made a formal offer for Carson Wentz because they were afraid he didn't want to be there. So the narrative around the league is that Carson Wentz forced his way out of Philly into a situation that he wanted to be in Indianapolis. I would have let Carson Wentz sit in the corner and twiddle his thumbs rather than do this deal. This is awful.
Yeah, that was just.
I would have just said, look, this is what we're getting for you, and you're not leaving. You can either play or you can sit out. We don't really care, but we're not paying you $33 million to go win a Super Bowl and an MVP, which is what I think is going to happen because he's going to shove it right up Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles' asses next year. He's going to win the MVP and he's going to get his ring because the Colts are well positioned from a roster standpoint to take the next step
Rob,
with Wentz.
He can be a game manager with that team. I mean, they have a 1,000-yard rusher. Okay, they have pretty good receivers. They have a very good offensive line, and they have a good defense. I mean, that team almost won in Buffalo, and they almost won in Buffalo with Rivers as the quarterback, and Rivers couldn't even move. I mean, they're very close. I don't get the whole thing. I don't understand why you get rid of both of them. That was what I didn't understand. I thought when they fired Peterson, I said to myself, okay, if you're firing Peterson, Wentz is safe. But to get rid of both of them didn't make sense to me because it had to be one or the other. I don't know why it had to be both. And I know that they're trying to say some stuff about, everybody in the locker room hated him. How the hell does anybody know that? I've never heard one player on that team make a derogatory comment about Wentz in the locker room. I've never heard that. So if it's been going on,
no, it's made up.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard a player actually say it. I've never seen it coming out of somebody's mouth. I see print media that they come up with, and I think some of these guys are really full of crap. Some of these guys that in your media down there, they're full of baloney.
They suck. They suck. The Philadelphia media stinks. That's why you got to keep it right here on A2D Radio, because the news is fake. Whether you look at the political media or the sports media, everyone has an agenda that they're trying to advance. Everyone has their sources that they think they have when they really got nothing. It's all fake. It's all agenda-driven fake news. And Philadelphia sports media takes the cake, I feel like. I don't know how it works up in New York, but Philadelphia sports media, it's in a bad place right now. It really is in a bad place.
The only time I can ever remember the media driving somebody out of town was Ray Handley with the Giants. When he took a Super Bowl winning team and turned them from a Super Bowl winning team to 8-8 and then 4-12. And basically the media started getting on his case during the 4-12 season. They were calling him out on plays, and he had no answer for anything. I have to check. He pulled the same crap as McAdoo used to do. I have to check the tape. I don't know. I have to go look at it again. I have to go. That stuff won't fly anywhere. I
don't understand why you need tape. You were standing right there on the sidelines. You saw everything fucking happen. What do you need to look at it again?
Yeah, well, that was the McAdoo excuse, and that used to be the Handley excuse. That he's really the only guy I can remember out of all the coaches in that town that the media drove out. None of the other guys were media driven out. They were driven out because you suck. And the teams just fired them because they sucked.
A couple good comments here. Bill Michalowski, and why do they get rid of Doug Peterson, the guy wasn't the best play caller, but I would have just got him an OC, and he did win a Super Bowl in his second year, so he's not a bad coach and took injury-plagued teams to the playoffs. Yeah, look, Bill, good for Doug Peterson. He was the coach when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I can't take that away from him. I'm grateful for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl because we ain't getting another one anytime soon with the garbage that's going on with the organization. But this team's not going to miss Doug Peterson. Mark my words. Take it to the bank. This team is not going to miss Doug Peterson. They're just not.
No. And the bottom line was it had to be one or the other. Okay, but it should not have been both. I just think if you're going to take a cap hit like that, why get rid of him? That's stupid. Now you have $34 million. Basically, you flush the season down the toilet. And I don't know any teams that do stuff like that other than the Miami Dolphins. They do crap like that. The Texans do crap like that. I just can't believe that they would do that. And you know what? If the Philadelphia fans don't show up this year for the Eagle games, you know what? It would serve them right because you know what? You don't get to flush a team down the toilet by trading their starting quarterback. Now
they're so scummy. They're so scummy, Brad. Because when my dad got his invoice for his season tickets?
When?
The day before Carson got traded. The day after Carson got traded.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's a coincidence.
No, it's not a coincidence. It's not. I mean, it's
now you don't have to actually pay the money for a while, but
No,
still, it's just the principle of the whole thing.
it is. It's the point, and you know
Let's
what?
get this $5,000 bill in the mail before we trade our franchise quarterback.
Yeah, well,
Great business. Bryce Blackwell, Colts players love Wentz, and Chris Long and other players push back on all the madness about Wentz. I'm not saying Wentz doesn't have issues, but man, LOL. Yeah, I mean, Wentz played bad last year. Wentz also got sacked 50 times last year. You know how many times he got sacked in 2017?
I would guess under 20.
2.
2?
No, probably not 2. Probably not 2, but
Probably
not a
20.
lot.
I bet you it was under 20 though.
Not a lot.
Yeah, probably under 20. Probably under 50. Probably around 16. Probably maybe once a game.
But look at what happened. Look at what happened to a great player like Patrick Mahomes and a high-powered offense like the Chiefs when they just couldn't block in the Super Bowl. They scored 9 points and they got embarrassed.
They didn't
Guess
get
what?
in the zone. And you know what? Patrick Mahomes might be the greatest quarterback of all time. He certainly has an opportunity to show everybody that he might have been. But you know, bottom line is, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If your line can't block the other team, then it doesn't matter.
Don19 wants to know how I'm doing in fantasy hockey. I think I'm 1-3. I don't know. I mean, I make these trades all the time. I just got to sit on my team, I guess. I don't know. Bob Brinkman, the deal is...
You didn't have Panarin for the last week.
Yeah, so that hurt.
Yeah, that couldn't help because that...
And, I don't know. I had a respectable point total this week, but I took the loss. And it looks like I finally have a couple goalies I can somewhat rely on. Alexander Barkov on the Florida Panthers. He's a stud.
Oh, he's a big-time player. You have him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. Now, he's really good.
That Pietrangelo from the
Golden Knights?
Yeah, he hasn't done nothing.
Yet.
I mean, he's got to get...
But he's a defenseman. He'll get going. He'll get you 25, 30 points as a defenseman. Don't forget, the Golden Knights are behind a lot of teams and games played because of COVID.
True.
They'll when they catch up, you know, you're going to be the beneficiary of all those extra games. So that'll help.
I understand, but it's a head-to-head matchup. So I can't get the points back.
No,
for the weeks I lost.
I realize that.
Right.
I realize that. But the end result is you will get more points because of it, though.
Right. Hopefully it's just not too late. I want to touch on this Deadspin article because Deadspin is absolute trash. The fact that they have a forum that people actually listen to is an absolute travesty. They took a shot at Philly for being racist and the Hurts Wentz thing. Here's the headline. Given that it's Philly, we can assume racism led fans to wanting Wentz over Hurts. But the insinuation of that headline is that Philly is these horrible racist fans, and they only wanted Carson Wentz around because he was white, while Jalen Hurts is an African-American. No, Deadspin. Actually, because Philadelphia fans, while I rip them for being uneducated at times and not having perspective on what's going around them outside of Philly in terms of sports, they're actually a very smart fan base. They actually see Wentz that was set up to fail by Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. He got sacked 50 times last year. He's got no receivers, and he's still a pretty good quarterback over the first 4 years of his career. Established success, established franchise quarterback, and they see a guy in Jalen Hurts who was, I know he's provided a spark, and they beat the Saints, but he's not good. 52% completion percentage, that's awful in today's pass-happy NFL.
Yeah, most guys are at 60% minimum.
If you're not at 60%, you're not starting, and you suck, and you're going to be on the bench, which is where Jalen Hurts should be because he ain't a franchise quarterback. So Philly fans aren't racist in thinking that Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. They just have eyes. They have eyes and a fucking brain and realize that Jalen Hurts couldn't even hold a starting job at a big-time college program.
That's such a ridiculous statement. I mean, do they hate Fletcher Cox? No. Jeremiah Trotter is probably one of the most beloved Eagles of all time. Is he white or black?
As is Brian Westbrook.
Right. And are they?
They're African Americans. They are not Caucasian.
That's one of the most clueless comments I've ever heard. And you know me, Rob. I do like to stick it to your fan base once in a while. But you know what? I got to be honest with you. That one, I'm not. No, can't say.
And then to back up their clickbait fake news headline, they use 2 examples from the fucking 40s. Racism here's a direct, this is exactly how Crumb Ed Condren wrote it. Now I just had to roll up. Let me find it again. Dick Allen endured racial harassment when the legendary figure who deserves to be enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame had his number retired last summer by the Phillies. Mike Schmidt spoke of the unrelenting racism directed at Allen. Okay.
That may have happened.
Dick Allen played when?
In the 60s.
Oh, wow. There wasn't racial tensions in major cities going on in the 60s everywhere?
In the early 60s, yeah, maybe. But that you can't just call out Philly for that. Call out a lot of cities for that.
Racism has long, deep roots in Philadelphia sports. Philly manager Ben Chapman was arguably the most vicious individual the iconic Jackie Robinson dealt with after breaking the color line in 1947. Okay, so we're not going to call out Boston, who didn't have a black player because their owner was so racist until 1960. Like, are we kidding me? So you get two lazy examples. Lazy examples.
That's ridiculous.
From the era in which racial tensions were highest in this city.
I didn't hear all the racial comments about Wayne Simmons when he was with the when he was with the Flyers.
No, but
I don't recall anybody being racist towards Wayne Simmons, and I think they love Wayne Simmons actually. So I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, how do you make statements like that based on?
Then they go on to make more lazy. Oh, then they may go on to make more lazy examples between the 07 to 2000, whatever it was, 12 Philadelphia Phillies. Jimmy Rollins was labeled by the vocal minority as lazy for not running hard to first. However, after covering most of the dynamic shortstop's career with the Phillies, that simply wasn't true. Rollins rarely dogged it and never took a play off in the field. First off, Jimmy Rollins, yes, he took plays off. He got away with it because he was supremely talented and a tremendous shortstop and a tremendous leadoff hitter, and he was the catalyst for those great Phillies teams. But to sit here and tell me that Jimmy Rollins never dogged it, I mean, are you kidding me? Charlie Manuel held him accountable on more than one occasion for being late or dogging it on the field. So for that to be a criticism of Jimmy Rollins is totally fair. Whether he's white, black, Spanish, Asian, whatever. Totally fair. And then they talk about Ryan Howard. Well, Ryan Howard signed the big contract, and then he got hurt. So it was a disappointment. And Chase Utley will forever be beloved in this city because of his hustle and intensity. Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard weren't intense like Chase Utley was. Eagles fans didn't fully embrace Randall Cunningham, even though it was evident that his talent was. Eagles aficionados openly questioned his decision-making, but it was difficult to debate the pros and cons of Cunningham after the ultimate weapon was injured and replaced by bumbling Bubby Brister a generation ago. Okay, Randall Cunningham, they didn't let Randall be Randall, which they go on to, like Rich Kotite strangled Randall Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham
strangled him.
never won a playoff game.
Yes, but Rich Kotite came in and tried to make Randall Cunningham a pocket passer.
Yeah, and that's why they went 7-9.
And then they tore his ACL in the opening day of 1994, and Randall Cunningham was never to be heard again in Philadelphia whatsoever.
Right, and then he went to Minnesota, and he had a great regular season. He went 15-1, and then lost in the first round of the Falcons.
No, he won a playoff game that year. I think they beat the Giants that year.
In 95.
A lot to a little. In 98.
Oh, yeah, that was the Danny Cannell game. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they did win that game. Okay. So he won. He did win that, but they blew a huge lead against the Falcons and lost. And they were 15.
And then it goes on to say that here's the most, this is the closing paragraph of the article. Was it racism or false hope provided by a few sparks generated in 2017? Face it, Philly, Wentz never lived up to expectations as a franchise player. Instead, the player who should go down as the most divisive player in Philadelphia sports history was a big bust for the Birds. So I'm racist. I'm a racist Philadelphia sports fan for thinking Carson Wentz was my franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, 15 years after 2017? Is that the narrative we're pushing here at Deadspin? That's awful. That's such lazy journalism. That's like throwing snowballs at Santa Claus.
That's just throwing shit.
It's an awful article, and this is why we need A2D radio.
The wall. See, that's like throwing shit against the wall and hoping it's going to stick.
Right, because everyone's going to see racism in the headline and Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're going to click it to see what it is.
And they're going to click it.
So, well, you know what? You come to A to D radio and you hear it like it is. We say what we have to say. Sometimes we say things that might piss people off, but we tell the truth here. Okay? I've never thought, and nobody likes to bust the Philadelphia fan base than I do. Okay? You guys will know that. But I can't go there. You guys aren't racist. Okay? You may overreact to wins and losses, but, you know, my fans are pretty bad too. So I don't really have that big a case there. But come on. Now, the one city that is racist, if you really want to get down to it, is Boston. I mean, they're terrible, and they always have been. I mean, look at the Adam Jones incident. That didn't happen too long ago. You remember how they used to treat Adam Jones when he was on the Orioles?
Boston 10 years ago, when Adam Jones was in his prime,
they had
problems with racism
in Boston
in 2010 in Boston.
It was later than that. It was later than that, Rob. They were.
But no, Carson Wentz gets traded, a white quarterback, and an African American's going to get the keys to the organization. And some people, like me, don't see Jalen Hurts as a franchise guy. I don't care that Jalen Hurts is an African American. I don't care at all. I have Michael Vick's jersey upstairs. I was all Vicked up. Are you kidding me? I've never seen someone play quarterback like Michael Vick did in that season with the Eagles.
Precisely.
It was unbelievable.
And everybody liked him. And
I didn't care that he killed dogs, and I didn't care he was an African American. I cared that he was playing at an MVP level, and the Eagles were winning football games.
I mean, you know, as a person, he was an awful person, but nobody cared. He was playing great, and that's all that anybody cared about. And you know what? Nobody ever, even when he finally left the Eagles, nobody ever had too many bad words to say about him because he was doing the job. He did a good job here. You know, that's just, it's so ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Jake Friel, the clickbait articles make me sick. We're all about the truth with no agenda at A2D. Now, that guy probably didn't make that headline, so me calling him out for that is probably unfair. but the content of the article, which I've read probably about 10 times since I drank my coffee this morning.
If his name was on it, then you know what? Then he's responsible.
To a degree, these guys don't make their headlines. Editors make the headlines, and editors are deeply more entrenched in the fake news than the actual writers.
The fact that we're even discussing it and giving them publicity is just what they want. That they accomplished what they wanted. Somebody mentioned their name, so that's really all they. When places say something that ridiculous, then obviously they're looking for attention. And to go that low and to have to be that pathetic to bring that into play when it's not.
And nobody's going to stick up for the Philadelphia fan base. No one likes us. We don't care. Everyone's going to look at this. Oh, they threw snowballs to Santa Claus. I guess they're racist now too. I guess that fits.
But at least be
honest.
But at least be honest. Yeah, nobody likes the fan base, but that's not why people don't like their fan base, because they're rowdy and they're a little rude when they come into the opposing ballpark. But other than that, they're like any other fan base, but racist? No.
Anyway, the Colts.
Sorry.
How good are the Colts going to be? Before we do a quick little preview of the Lake Tahoe game here, Flyers Bruins. How good are the Colts going to be now? Unless
the Titans tighten up that defense big time, the Colts are going to crush that division.
Yeah, because Houston's a train wreck. I think I like the dynamic between Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence, assuming that Trevor Lawrence is in Jacksonville.
That's going to take a couple of years, though.
I understand that.
It's going to take some time to fix that. Okay, it's basically the Colts and the Titans, and right now, with Carson Wentz on the team, okay, they are light years ahead of the Titans right now. And unless the Titans go out and get themselves a defense, okay, they're not going to beat the Colts. No way. And Carson in perfect weather now, with a good offensive line. And I mean, all Carson really has to do, and basically, you guys may throw stones at me for saying this, but all he has to do is just be Alex Smith. That's all he has to do, and he'll be very successful. And you know what? The Colts will be more than happy with that. Just go out there and on third down, make a good throw. You got guys to throw the ball. You got good running backs. I mean, they're a good team. I'll tell you one thing: he has no excuse. If he messes up with the Colts, then okay. He messed up. The Colts still didn't give up. They didn't mortgage their future. The Eagles had to make a trade with Wentz where a team was mortgaging their future for him. I mean, that's really kind of what they had to do. How many draft first-round picks do you think it's going to take to get Deshaun Watson?
A lot.
Yeah, it's going to take at least 2 first-round picks, maybe 3. It's going to take at least 2. Plus, you're going to have to give them. Plus, you're going to have to give up a couple of players. Okay, and okay, Deshaun is really good, but you know what? When Carson was at his best, he was just as good as Deshaun.
Big time.
He was just as good. You can't sit here and tell me he wasn't. In 2017, 2018, I'll tell you what. Last season, not this past season, but the season before that, when they got into the playoffs, you know what? Carson. The reason they made the playoffs was because of Carson. Because they sure as hell didn't have a whole hell of a lot of receivers that year. I mean, they didn't have a lot of talent on the offense. I mean, Carson willed them to the playoffs. It's just that the whole thing is ridiculous. The offensive line for the Eagles this year was terrible. Okay? From the first week of the season, it was terrible. When Carson almost got killed against Washington, to the whole rest of the season, that offensive line was just pathetically bad. Okay, they got old and they got injured, and that's what I was trying to tell you at the beginning of the season that I was thinking might happen to them with their offensive line. They played a lot of football over the years. Okay, all the playoff games and everything. They will, yeah. If they played 5 years, they probably actually played more like 6 because of all the playoff games. And you know what? When you go deep into the playoffs, you know it does take its effect on some of these guys. Some of them were a little long in the tooth, and they got hurt. And you know what? Some of them aren't as good as they used to be either. And some of them just got old. And that happens. That happens a lot with lines. That's why in the draft, you see a lot of offensive linemen and defensive linemen getting drafted in the first round. And it's not that often that you'll see a position player other than a quarterback get drafted in the first round. Only the tippity top players, receivers, running backs, or tight ends, quarterbacks. Only the tippity top of the college football leagues have guys like that drafted in the first round. Usually it's defensive linemen and offensive linemen. They're usually the first ones off the board.
All right.
You know?
Winter Classic, Lake Tahoe series. I love these outdoor games, Brad. We got the Philadelphia Flyers, Boston Bruins, the two best teams in the East. Flyers are not favored. I was wrong at the top of the show. They are plus 150, so they're
okay. That sounds more.
Boston's pretty big favorite. But I mean, Captain Claude did not make the trip. Konechny didn't make the trip, and I don't think Voracek is playing either. So Flyers being a dog makes sense.
I don't see how they win the game, but you know what? If the Flyers play,
they get a point like they did on Thursday. I think that would be
if they play
really
if they play a tight checking game, okay, and they don't try to go up and down the ice with the Bruins, and they make it where every inch of the ice is fought for, they have a chance in the game. But you got to make sure they don't go trying to open it up because they just can't. They can't until they get their guys back.
Well, I mean, this game was supposed to be at 1:00, Brad. It's supposed to be a post-game show, leading with the post-game show.
No,
it gets pushed back to 7:30 because of bad ice. So it leads me to believe that it's going to be a sloppy game. I like under 5.5 goals.
Yeah, that's not a bad bet. That's not a bad bet. There probably won't be a lot of goals. I would think that it's going to be a very tight checking game. I think Boston is very hard to score against anyway, and if Carter Hart is his usual self, they'll be okay. I mean, it may have not for the Flyers to lose to Rangers, but I think Rangers winning against the Flyers, the Rangers, and the fan base, I think it meant a lot because I think the way they played at Washington yesterday, they built on it, and they basically beat the crap out of Washington, who ended up beating the hell out of the Devils, and they were playing it back-to-back, and they went and beat the hell out of the Devils today. So that wasn't a fluke. That sometimes games like that, even against an injury-depleted team like the Flyers, can galvanize a team. I think if the Flyers, and this is a good opportunity for them, if they can go out there and at least get a point, I think that would really galvanize this team and give them a lot of confidence going forward. They're just going to have to play tight. They're just going to have to play tight checking and try to play a low-scoring game, and come out of it with maybe a 2-1 win, a 3-2 win, a 2-1 kind of win. If they can keep the score like that, they have a good chance to win the game. If it starts getting to be a high-scoring game with their top forwards not in the game, I just don't see them being able to match the Bruins offensively. That's what they're going to have to do, though.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Sixers also in action. We'll see how that pans out with the buyout market, trades. But anyway, he's Brad. I'm Rob. Frank Vesby produces. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our comments. Thanks to our sharers. If you missed it, download us. If you don't like us, subscribe, all that shit. You guys should know what to do. Help spread the word. Till next Monday. Next Monday, back on the regular schedule. See you next Monday, 7:15. Peace out, everybody.